Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here from Antwerp, and today we are gonna taste a beer that is from technically quite close to home here. It is a beer from Braschaat, which is like 2 kilometers that way. First disclaimer, I say Braschaat, it's actually brewed in Menen in Limburg, in West Flanders, sorry. But we'll get back to that in the story in a minute. We are gonna talk about the Shady Priest, a quite special stout by Galea craft beers. I want to say brewery, but they're not a brewery. This is Galea craft beers here in Braschaat in the north of Antwerp. I am located in Ekeren, and then we have Capelle Braschaat right next to that. Galea is not a brewery. Galea is Galea Craft Beers, and Galea Craft Beers is what we call a beer firm. A beer firm is a company that does develop and design beers, but they don't brew it themselves. They have a contractor brew it for them. Nonetheless, they do design some really awesome beers. For this reason, Galea calls themselves a gypsy brewery, and they do a lot of collabs as well. They collab with Belgian breweries, but also with Polish breweries, and so on and so on. They actually experiment a lot on a small home brewing installation, and then they go looking for which brewery is best suited to brew that in a larger volume. So currently they work with 4 breweries, and this one is brewed by Brewery Eutropius, known for Oscar beer, but Eutropius is a whole other story that I'll get into in a minute. So first let's start with Galea. Galea is, like I said, a craft beer firm, and it was founded in 2014 by Giovanni Christis, a guy from Heide Kalmthout, which is like 6 miles that way. And I just realized that I'm using kilometers and miles in the same video, which is awkward, but nonetheless. Giovanni followed a brewing course in Anderlecht near Brussels in 2014, and then he actually founded Galea already. However, the first beers that actually saw the light of day, the Galea Grand Cru in this case, was only marketed in 2016. Now, they never sat still, or he never sat still. He developed a lot of recipes, made a lot of beers, and in 2019 he had some beers gone wrong or gone off, and he actually started making gin out of those bad beers. They do make some others, some other hard liquors. They make a bunch of beers, and for example, they do some special things like this one. The Shady Priest is a Russian Imperial salted caramel maple bacon stout. Like I said, created by Galea craft beers from Antwerp, Belgium, but brewed by Brewery Eutropius. Brewery Eutropius is another story. Whereas Galea is actually a Latin name, and it stands for helmet or helmet shaped. We also see that name or that word in biology, like some parts of the cranium are called Galea. And their logo is also a Roman helmet, which is quite contradictory, because Galea actually comes from the Gauls, Jaul. And if anyone saw the Asterix movies or read the comics, they know that Julius Caesar actually said Horum omnium fortissimum Belgae. And my Latin is a bit rusty, but I do know that translates to, of all the Gallians, or the Gauls, I mean, the Belgians were the bravest. And yeah, some people are quite keen on that. On the other hand, we have Eutropius Brewery. I know that sounds Latin as well, but it's not really true. It is Greek, and Eutropius, I don't know where they got that name, but it has 2 meanings. First off, Eutropius is a name of an old Greek historian, I think from the 3rd or 4th century. I could be off by a few centuries, doesn't matter. Or it is Old Greek for good manner, like a good manner of manufacturing or production. Basically meaning doing things the right way. Eutropius actually technically started out 10 years before Galea, because the story starts, and it is of course a story, in 2004 when Wouter Vermeers was 16 years old and drank his very first beer. At first he didn't like it, after a few he did, and don't we all? His interest peaked and he wanted to learn more about that. Now fast forward 7 years, he follows a course, he has some fun, he experiments a bit, and in 2011 Wouter starts Eutropius Brewery with a 500 liter installation. How did he get a 500 liter installation immediately? Well, he actually used the old Alvin Brewery buildings, and that was in Heulen near Kortrijk, like I said, West Flanders. They were what we call an etiketbrouwerij or a label brewery, so actually a contractor brewery that brews a lot for other beer firms or organizations or whatchamacallit. Now they did brew quite a lot, and about 95% of that were label beers or contracted beers. But they also brewed their own beers, and I think that the most well-known beer from those is Oscar or Oscar. However, in 2012, Wouter meets Barbara Prats, a marketeer, and they start dating. Now, at first, she's a bit skeptic, but in 2014, 2 years later, Barbara joins the brewery and they start setting out some brands and doing a bit of marketing, as one should. In 2016, the installation is sold to Brewery The Phoenix, and The Phoenix is a very new, just started brewery in 2016, but not a very new brewer, because it is started by Gino van Tighem, who used to work at Liefmans Brewery from the Old Brown and the Golden Band. And Eutropius moves to Menen. Voila, the whole story. Like I said, the beer world is not a world, it's a small village, and many people and many names come back several times. Now all that's left for us is to taste this beer. Like I said, it is a Russian Imperial salted caramel maple bacon stout. Now I hear Russian Imperial, so it should be rather heavy and boozy. 11.5% ABV. Check. Salted caramel, so sweet and salty, we'll see. And then maple bacon, again sweet and salty, but also smoked. So I do expect a bit of smoked flavors here. They do have a version of this beer that is aged for 6 months in old oak bourbon barrels. Unfortunately, I don't have that one. But let's start out with this basic Russian Imperial salted caramel maple bacon stout. Very basic. And see what gives. Ooh. Right off the bat, this smells like it's not made in a brewery but in a butcher shop. First I get some salty smoked scents from the bacon. Secondly, a lot of maple syrup, I suppose. Maple nuts, maple syrup. I do get a bit of sweetness in there, so probably the caramel. I do get a bit of, it's not a milky stout or a breakfast stout, but I do get that softness in there as well, which really contradicts that smoky, salty, bacony scent. Okay. Very, very odd. Ooh, look at that color. Okay, this is like motor oil. Actually, while pouring, I see that stream is very, very clear, in fact. Now they do have a lot of beers with Catholic inspired names. Now of course I don't have to draw the picture by the name Shady Priest. I also love this artwork. They always incorporate other artists to make their artworks. But they do have a beer called Black Pope as well. They do have a beer called Dark Nun, also in a horror theme. So yeah, this isn't new for them. Okay, still more bacon, more salty smoked scents. So actually this does remind me a bit of an old German classic Rauchbier, a smoke beer. Yeah, and there's the maple and the caramel again. Lovely color. It actually looks like it's black, but it's more like Coca-Cola. They actually have a reddish brown color, and so does this one. So it reminds me of a red rye beer, for example. But yeah, lovely color. It's not jet black, it's actually ruby red brownish. Some nice, yeah, I'd call this brown foam. Tiny bubbles, quite thick foam as well, quite dense. There we go. It had some time to breathe, and now we get those classic stout scents as well. That chocolate smells, a tiny hint of coffee, but that's masked away by the smoky smells. But mainly that chocolate that was pushed out by the maple and the caramel. But there it is nonetheless. Okay, let's put this to our lips. Ooh, yeah, that's dinner. This is not a breakfast stout, this is in fact a whole dinner by itself. It is chewable, quite syrupy. Wow. It's like they dropped some chocolate and bacon in a can of maple syrup. It is quite dense, quite thick. It has a very, very full and thick mouthfeel. It's actually even quite sticky. It sticks to my teeth and to the roof of my mouth. Is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily, but it is different. This is the exact opposite of a watery beer. Actually, the tastes are less strong than the scents. And by that I mean it is a very strong tasting beer, but there was more in the smell profile, in the nose, than in the taste. Like in the taste I get a lot less of that smoky, bacony flavors. Also, this doesn't taste like 11.5%, so very, very dangerous. But this actually makes me think of maple syrup, chocolate sauce to put on ice cream. The saltiness is very, very subtle here. So it is present, but it's absolutely ever so slightly. And the bacon does come around right at the moment that the beer enters your mouth, so when there's a bit of air flowing with it, and so when it comes to balance, I do think that they did the trick, and I do believe that they actually added a bit of caramel and some maple syrup and bacon essence, so extracts. That might explain while it's more present in the volatile phase than in the liquid. But yeah, nonetheless not so bad. Something that people often forget, and brewers and food production in general, by the way, or beverage production is quite good in that. But something that people often forget is that we also taste with our nose. If you don't believe me, give your children Brussels sprouts. First thing they'll do is pinch that nose closed so they taste a lot less. Okay, now it goes without saying that I'm not gonna chug this beer down in the 5 minutes remaining or something. So I will drink this quite comfortably in its time, but let's stop this video here and go on to the scoring. How would I score this? I've never been super keen on these extra sweet, thick, syrupy breakfast, dessert, pastry, stouts thingies. Nonetheless, I do believe this one is very well made. It is very well rounded. I even don't mind the use of extract in this beer instead of all natural ingredients, because why would you cook strips of bacon? That's gonna clog your filter and it's not gonna add any value. So no problems there. It's a bit thick to my taste, but that does not make this a bad beer. And that's a big difference. Something that's less to my taste is not necessarily less good. So I should score this beer honestly, and I will give this a yeah, just like the last one, something between 3 and 3.5, so probably around 3.25 or something in Untapped. You'll see when I upload it. Yeah, let's keep it at that. Nice beer. I have had Galea beers before. I am looking forward to all the things that they will be making in the future as well. And yeah, as usual, I can't endorse these beers enough. If you guys walk past them on a beer festival or something, go say hi and try out some of their beers, but be careful, they are quite heavy. So ask for the small one and taste more. Anywho, if you like this video, let me know, hit that thumbs up, show me some love in the comments. If you have any questions or remarks, same thing. And if you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you'll be the first to know whenever I upload anything. I am thinking about changing the schedule because of upload problems. I changed from Wednesday, Friday, Sunday to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and actually that seems to be, yeah, easier for a lot of people. So I'll probably keep that on. We'll see how that goes. Cheers, you guys. See you in the next video.